Thank you so much for getting settled in. The next one happens to be a very interesting session about security. When I started in my career, I think the default way was to go with always trust until the trust is broken. Then it became trust but verify. And now the trend is zero trust. So I'm going to have Nidhi come up on stage and introduce the speakers. Enjoy your session.
Oh man, what a crowd. I'm waiting for all of people to come inside. I hope you guys are having a great day and listening to great conversation. So I'm here to say a few words about this segment because security is very close to my heart, right? So as Swapnil was mentioning as well that we have multiple frameworks in security, and one thing that I want to mention is that as we evolve as an industry, hybrid enterprises, and new technology that we build, security is always the problem. Security is something that you can't bolt on top, right? It has to be the part of the system. So today we have a very amazing conversation set up because we have one of the chief product officer is Mario is here, chief product officer of Illumio, and then we have Hitesh, CEO of Vectra.ai, and in conversation with them would be Pramod Gosavi. He's a VC at Blumberg Capital, and the amazing thing is that this will be a conversation between investor and the people who build products. So looking forward to it. Thank you, Pramod. I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Pramod Gosavi. I'm an investor at Blumberg Capital. Just a brief background, we are an early-stage fund focusing on, we are mainly a B2B generalist, but some of the areas that we focus on is cybersecurity, data, AI, fintech, supply chain. Our claim to fame is we were one of the earliest investors in Nutanix, another great company started by IITians. And we had like Vipin was one of the investors at Blumberg some time back. So great ties with the IITian community and happy to continue that journey here. So let me start with the panelists. Can you guys introduce yourself, very brief introduction? And just to keep it very lightweight and funny, maybe talk about your journey, education, and share one thing that you really, really enjoy outside of work that is not work.
That's hard. Something outside of work with this crowd.
I'll start. So one thing that I really enjoy outside of work is reverse engineering recipes, like trying to make the best butter chicken or, yeah.
Go ahead, Mario.
Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for having us. Well, this is popular every time I say it. I love to dance salsa. My roots are Hispanic, so I'm a salsa dancer. That's I do outside of work.
I think that's an invitation to perform.
I know. Maybe later.
Maybe later. Outside of work, I'm into wildlife conservation. So, I'm originally from Kenya. So, fun side fact. And so, elephants are a passion for me.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. So let me start with one question that it's on everybody's mind is AI, right? We are in a AI era right now. This is probably the second generation that I've seen. So quickly to start with Hitesh, there's a lot of talk about like bubble, hype, and real use cases. And what's interesting is, both of you guys are working on infrastructure companies, and there's still a lot of question whether AI is useful for infrastructure or is it more useful for vertical AI, like, legal and healthcare and others. So would love to hear a bit more about what you guys are seeing.
Sure. Happy to. By the way, thank you to the IIT team here for inviting us. It's good to be here in front of all of you guys. This is a super smart bunch of people. So actually, Mario and I were joking that we're also here for a recruiting mission. So those of you anybody's looking to do something different, we are here. Come and see us. But look, I think at Vectra we started doing AI from the founding of the company. This is over 12 years old now. And this is well before it became the rage it is nowadays. And I think we were probably one of the earliest who kind of did the .ai thing on the name. And we learned very early on a few key lessons that I think that kind of held true till today. One is, you cannot make AI useful unless you've got domain expertise that you marry alongside AI. So in our case, clearly, having security research sit alongside, the data scientists was a very important component. The second thing is, and this may be for some of you counterintuitive, but all data is not good data. So one of the fallacies that I think when people are building anything related to finding signal in data is that let me just hoover up as much data as I can, and the reality is that just is incredibly inefficient. So our roots, I think, Pramod, as you know, we started out on the network side, and I'll give you network as a simple example. You don't need to do full packet capture to find signal that tells you you've been compromised. The truth is that the signal that you're looking for resides in metadata. And metadata represents less than 1%, or about 1% of overall network traffic. So you can be dramatically more efficient. You can scale dramatically better if you just focus on collecting metadata. And you can take that lesson and apply it to other parts of the infrastructure. But those are some of the early lessons that have held true till today for us at Vectra.
Makes sense. What about you, Mario?
So in our case, AI, for me, has three critical aspects that we need to look at. So number one is that AI is enabling attackers to be much more effective than before. So as a cybersecurity practitioner, we have to consider a landscape that changed dramatically, right? Yep. So today, large language models allow you to do social engineering in a way that it was not possible to do before. Yep. So we're going to see a lot more people clicking on links that they shouldn't click and opening, that first gate to cyber attackers. So it's much more important right now to catch those attackers after they get inside. The second element is that AI simplifies complex tasks in the infrastructure tremendously. Yeah. So what in the past could take months to deploy or could be very expensive to operate, certain legacy cybersecurity tools, now they can be operated with LLM interface. So it could be very simple to operate this. And the third one, and for me this is the most critical one, and I 100% agree with Hitesh here, is that you can solve the core problem that you're going after. In our case, it's cybersecurity, right? So you can use, the processing, automated processing to find threats, prevent those threats from moving through your infrastructure, and essentially make the customer more secure. We process at Illumio billions of flows of information, network flow. Yeah. And we put that into AI systems. So now AI systems need to handle the scale. So for all of you that are looking to work in AI, I think that the frontier today is to do AI at scale, not a science project, but actually can you do it at the billions and trillion scale? I think that's definitely the future.
Yeah. Just double clicking on that, like how much of your hiring, like you mentioned recruiting, right? Like how much of your recruiting right now is geared towards hiring more data AI versus traditional folks? Is that something that you are emphasizing a lot?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think without question, in our case, they are, as I was saying in the beginning, the notion of data science and domain, they have to get married. And so we have, if I consider, a lot of the secret sauce in the company, it comes from this intersection between the data science work and the security research team. So we place a great emphasis in making sure that they're about the same size, right? And the third is the platform side. Ultimately, if you're going to build a platform that can perform at scale, you need to have the right kind of investment made over there. But hiring data science is a key part, I think. A funny kind of anecdote for the people here who are early. So one of our earliest investors was Vinod Khosla. So Khosla Ventures is an investor in Vectra. And I remember in the few early years of sitting with Vinod, and if anybody has met Vinod, it's a trip. You're getting into a battle. Like, my 90 minutes with him was literally a battle. And the test he would have for me every single time is like, how many PhDs have you hired? He didn't, that's the only part of our engineering mix he would sit and stare at. And to the point of like, literally he would look at the profiles of the people to make sure that we're hiring the right diversity was the other key aspect. But the key was that he was looking for to make sure that we're investing correctly in AI upfront, and that's remained true till today.
Yeah. How about you, Mario? Are you looking for, I think the intersection of X and AI, I mean, those people have become very, very highly valued. Like in your case, it's like cybersecurity and AI. Are you looking for those folks?
More than looking, we're hiring like crazy, and as Hitesh said before, this is an opportunity for recruiting. So, but we look at profile of domain expertise. Of course, they need to have some background in either cybersecurity, infrastructure, or enterprise software, SaaS, right? So not everybody has to be an expert in cybersecurity, especially for junior positions, right? We look for talent. We look for people that can learn very fast. But the other two are data science, of course, and we've been hiring super aggressively on that side. Yeah. But the insight is that at some point in time, we did a lot of that hiring, and we were lacking the people that can do the scale piece. Yeah. So we are also hiring people that can do AI at scale, and you won't find many, because most people have been in the data science side so far. So I think that this is where we're looking the most, right? Yeah. AI at scale. Yeah.
So let me get a little bit of battle going between you two.
A battle?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in cybersecurity, there's like two schools of thought. One is protection, right? So people say, put as many locks you want on the door because you just need to prevent the hacker from coming in. That's your thing, that focus on protection, right? The other school of thought is like detection and response. So it's assumed breach saying, hey, somebody will get in, so you need to keep monitoring. So the analogy is like putting cameras inside the room to see if somebody got in. So on the endpoint side, there was this whole battle between Cylance and CrowdStrike, and I feel like Cylance eventually lost the battle, and CrowdStrike won it on the detection and response, and you guys are also doing. So it's a battle. So you tell us why people should focus on protection only, and then you say protection is not enough, you need detection.
Okay.
So, okay, I'll start, and I will rock the boat by saying that I'm going to propose something different from what you said. Okay. I think that the first generation of cybersecurity was prevention or protection, right? Which is like keep the bad guys out, right? The generation of the firewall. And you have to have those. I'm not saying these are not good tools, but I think that everybody will agree that the attackers are able to get inside your perimeter, whatever that firewall or protection you have outside. Then people say, okay, they're going to get in through the gates. I need to chase them and catch them. And that's the detection and response, right? So you go and try to monitor and catch it. But I challenge all of you to look at the statistics. With the best firewalls of the world, the best XDR today, whether ransomware and attack is on the rise or is it controlled or going down, I can assure you that it has been never higher than last year. So ransomware and other type of attack are growing. So what I think we need to do right now is contain. Is not prevent, not detection and response, is contain. So make sure that if they get to your front yard, they cannot get into the hall of your house. If they get it to the hall, they cannot get to the kitchen.
That's a good analogy.
So that is containing, stop the breach. I will say stop the breach, have every prevention, detection, and response if you want, but if you don't contain, you're in trouble.
Got it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth in what Mario is saying. I think this is honestly, it's a false choice to kind of say we have to pick between prevention and detection and response. Obviously, do what you can to prevent. It's the right thing to do, but recognize that things are going to get through, as is evident with any number of data points out there. I think there's one way to kind of think about this. There are really two breaches that occur at any given time, right? Breach number one is somebody gets through the door. Right? While that is interesting, that is really not that critical. Breach number two, when somebody walks out with your data or causes harm to your infrastructure, that is the breach that really counts, ultimately. And then if you think about the heterogeneous, fast-moving attack surface, especially with cloud, and then I think everybody here would agree, we look at AI itself as an attack surface. There is no chance, like zero chance, that you can only prevent attacks. It's just not going to happen. So you've got to have a layered approach when you think about security. Do what you can to stop things, but ultimately think about the second breach. You've got to have detection and response for that.
Got it. So just to be on record, I believe in both the sides. I believe in...
You're an investor. You have to.
Yeah. So I believe in reducing the attack surface. I would say if you have $100 to spend, I would actually spend $60 on prevention, and then $40 on.
That's a bad investment. But we can that's a different panel. We can come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's switch gears a bit, since this is a leadership conference. So Hitesh, I've known you for a long time since you started the company. Amazing job raising money, like $350 million, and you're a unicorn. So there's a lot of prospective founders here.
Yep.
And cybersecurity is one of those, like what I call as an evergreen industry, because you're always chasing the bad guys. So you see tons of companies starting every year and exiting, but you guys have sustained, for a long time, 1,500 customers.
Yep.
Good job at that. So what would be your advice to a founder out here? And let's just focus more on the leadership side, both in terms of leadership in the industry, building a product that changes the dynamics of the industry, and also on the people side, hiring the best people, managing them, and yeah.
Okay, it's a complex question, but there's a lot we can cover. But I'll try and share at least a few learnings on our part, and these learnings are a result of things we've gotten right, and frankly things we've gotten wrong along the way as well. Let's kind of break this down. You kind of made this point that we have raised a little over $300 million. True. We have been really fortunate to have amazing investors from, as I said, Vinod early on, Blackstone, DCV, Excel, and so we got like the best investors on the table. We are really, really fortunate. I would say two things, right, as you are starting your journey, or if you are midway through your journey in building a company. One, in the early years, especially in the early years, raise as little as you can. This is not what investors...
But you'll encourage to raise, right? Okay.
If you can, without raising for the first year, do so.
Okay.
Not what you want to hear, because I know you want to put money up to work out there. but honestly, in the interest of the company, raise as little as you can. I wish, when I look at our money that we raised, $350 million, none of my investors are here, I think. But I can tell you, I feel like I wasted $30, $40 million out of that. We really didn't need that. If we had been better about managing our money, we wouldn't have had to raise, we should have been okay at about 300, really. So raise as little as you can. The second thing is, and this is also really hard to do, don't go for maximum valuation. Don't make that mistake. When we raised our round with Blackstone, we got a unicorn valuation of $1.2 billion. And I was at a board meeting, and I remember, like, most of my board was pushing me super hard because we had options to come in at close to 2. And they were like, why are you doing this? Like, you can get something, same amount of money for a lot more valuation. And my logic was very simple, which is, you're going to have to live with this investor or investors for a long period of time. And if things go sideways, which they did in the last couple of years, right? You're going to have very unhappy people around you, and there is no point in that, because the only number that really matters is the number whether you go public or you get bought.
Yeah.
That is the number that counts.
Yeah.
So if you can be disciplined about how you raise money and the valuation you get out of it, don't get greedy about it, it'll serve you well in the long run. Right? That's the first thing. Pick your investor by focusing on the partner.
So maybe I'll just have you take a breather. Maybe, Mario, you've been in a lot of marquee companies like Symantec, Palo Alto, now at Illumio. So in the crowd, we have a lot of product managers, engineers. Maybe startup is not their cup of tea. They want to do well in large companies. What would be your recommendation? Like, you've done really well climbing the career ladder and getting to like the CPO. So what are some of the learnings, and like what should folks do here in their career to be as successful as you?
So full disclosure, I think that the most valuable lessons that I learned about career, I learned when I was an entrepreneur. So I started my career as an entrepreneur. Then I worked briefly in venture capital as well. And I think that the view of everything that we do as a business, understanding what is the fundamental customer problem that you are solving and how you give value to that customer, and you bring that into your day-to-day, is going to be fundamental. So if you are not with a maniac focus on the value that you bring to the customer, you're going to have trouble. So whether you're an engineering leader, whether you're a product manager, whether you are a founder, driving, or even an investor, you have to always focus on what is that unique unsolved problem that is fundamental for the customer that nobody else has solved before. And you have to build a business around that unique problem, bringing a novel solution that nobody can bring to the market. So keep that in mind all the time. So the second thing that I always advise people to focus on is to see what is the best return on your time. So define as a leader, as an executive, where would you put your time? What is going to be your focus at every point in time? Put your time on that gives more return on investment to what you're doing right now for the customer, for your team, for the company that you're working on. And I think that the third element is that don't delude yourself, right? So if the market is telling you that something is not working, just fail fast and adapt. So I think that some of the most successful entrepreneurs are those that can iterate multiple times and learn very quickly. You don't see all these iterations and failures because they're very successful at doing that. So take risk, go out, but listen to the market, and when it's not working what you're doing, just change and adapt very quickly.
So let's just switch gears more on the people management. So you started one, like you were the founder, and then you scaled the company. So a lot of folks here, senior positions. So can you share a bit on your people management, delegating authority, incentivizing people? Like, how do you actually, like with cybersecurity, I feel like there's a big challenge with the large companies and also large startups is like, how do you attract and retain the best people? Because,
Sure.
People can go start companies, there's a lot of funding on the side.
Yeah.
How do you incentivize and manage people?
Yeah. Look, I'll make a couple of comments around this. I think one of the most important things you do as a founder, if you're the CEO, founder, CEO, whoever's running the company, is culture, without question. I think your best shot at retaining people and hiring people is if you've got the right culture in the company. And then culture is not, it doesn't have to be really complicated. People write like 10-point culture things. I'll tell you the 3 things we've got at Vectra. One is customer first, and that's easier said than done. Like having genuine empathy for customer and their success is really critical, like super critical, number 1. Number 2, no drama teamwork. Yeah. There are clever ways of putting it, I'm sure, than that, but really that's it. And by the way, that starts with the executive team. At large companies, anybody who's been at large companies, whether you're at Symantec, I was at Cisco, the drama usually is in the executive ranks. So if you are building a company, you got to make sure that you're different in that regard. Third is integrity. That's it. If you keep it simple, but then you're really maniacal about focusing on that, that is probably the best recipe for hiring people. Apart from the mission of the company, you're doing great stuff for building amazing technology, but you got to get the culture right. That's one of the most important things to focus on.
So I think you mentioned a good point. I just want to emphasize a bit. I agree with you. There's a lot of politics at the higher ranks at large companies, and a lot of good folks, they just get frustrated. They cannot do what they want to do. And I think that's one way companies can really differentiate is give the best people, whatever they need to build the products and keep them away from politics and drama.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know how much time, but there's this current rage in the market around founder mode.
Yeah. No, I'm going to come.
Yeah, you're going to come to that? Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's just start on that. Maybe start with Mario. This whole thing about like founder mode and manager mode. Like founder mode to me is just like, getting your hands dirty, zooming in, zooming out, taking things in control. And like since we are in cybersecurity industry, like one of the leader I look up to is like Nikesh, right? I've worked with him and he's very much like a founder mode, like he does what he wants to do. So you first, tell us what mode you operate in, founder mode or manager mode, and then what does this mean to you? And yeah.
I think that this is another example of what Hitesh said is a false dichotomy. I don't think that anybody can be successful if you're always in either founder mode or manager mode. I think that the best is a combination of the two. It depends also on the maturity of the company. I like founder mode more, but I recognize that you have to switch between the two. And that's the way that I operate. So you use founder mode to inspire other people, to drive energy, to innovate, and then you use manager mode when needed to scale, to drive efficiency, to release resources from doing repetitive things to come back and fuel again founders mode. And part of my management philosophy is to drive everybody in the organization to be a founder and a manager at the same time. Yeah. So I think that's the secret.
Yeah. Look, I think
how do you switch between the founder and manager mode?
Yeah. And there are certain things that you can do as a founder that are unique. So what are those things? You can drive culture. You can play a critical role in hiring people. You can play a critical role with key customers. You can take strategic risk that nobody else can. And finally, you can help raise money. Right? These are unique to what a founder can do. And so if you make sure that you're channeling your energy in that direction, that's probably the best use of your founder mode skill set. After that, right, the stuff you hear about Elon Musk and I'm sleeping on the floor and nano managing the crap out of everybody and making everybody feel like shit, that is really not the way to ultimately scale healthy companies. Majority of the companies that are successful don't work like that. I mean, the cool stories in the press, it sounds really exciting, but the other ones really don't. I would say you're far better off injecting a founder's mentality in the company. So if you've got a large group of people around you who have the mentality, that's a far stronger, far more powerful force multiplier than you are the only person who's going to run around and make things happen for the company. Doesn't scale.
Got it. So maybe I'll just open it up to the audience. Any questions?
You can ask anything, by the way. Good.
Some brave souls there.
So we talked about scaling AI, and one of the biggest impediments is cost. How do you see sort of that cost curve coming down and then the scaling coming up to have more use of AI in your companies?
Go ahead.
Just to rephrase the question, the question is how do you worry about the cost as you're scaling? Because most people think that the cost just goes up, like maybe linearly or exponentially.
So it depends on what you're looking at, but you need to look at both training and inference, right? And the equation might be different in both cases. So first of all, you want to be very effective with the amount of data that you're collecting. If you're collecting a lot of data that is not adding to your models, you're essentially being wasteful. So you have to be very smart about that. One of the key questions is, hey, if you have a business that already collects that data, right? In our case, for example, we collect the network data to do segmentation no matter what. And that data is there, right? So we just process it in a different way so you can reduce the cost tremendously. When you do inference as well, you have to be very smart about what pieces of your model and your application really need AI and what others can be solved with simple heuristics or more traditional mechanisms. So we use a combination of both. So you use the AI where it's actually needed. You do training with the right amount of data. And when you scale, you become very efficient in the inference. These are a few recipes in terms of scaling, but I think that the number one will be manage the right amount of data. Don't go overboard and try to collect everything under the sun. I don't know, Hitesh has
No, I mean, I think what I would say, just in summary, be careful about the data you collect. So think through the use cases and what data you need for what purpose. That's the first thing. Secondly, think about your platform. Because if you're going to process data at scale and speed, right, the way you make your platform engineering choices are going to be really critical. And thirdly, do not lock yourself into a single cloud service provider. That is the fast. I mean, I know they can pitch you, all these services that you can utilize, and there's near-term benefits and all that stuff. But ultimately, the ability to be portable is going to help you manage your costs.
If I may hear both the entrepreneurial and the venture capital version of why we should not maximize valuation.
Can you repeat the question?
Why we should not maximize valuation?
Yes, I'll start first, and I think I relate to Hitesh. So one of my companies, the previous firm, raised at a pretty high valuation. I think what happens is they come in at that valuation and they want like a 3x or 4x from there. And when you go and raise at a very high valuation, you're forced to show like a really high growth curve. And if anything goes wrong on that, like Hitesh said this really, really well, is like you're going to have a lot of like bitter, unhappy people, because I think the thing that people don't see is what's happening on the other side of the venture capital, right? So when this VCs, they sit on their board, they go back to their partner meetings. They're like, okay, how is this company doing? And even like a slight amount of misexecution, it starts looking like an exposure. So this company, like everything is good about the product. The product is great, CEO is great, culture is great, market is doing its own thing. The only thing was wrong was the valuation, and that created a lot of unhappy people and didn't have a good outcomes. So I think I would say that you should raise like you should look at how much you want to raise, at what valuation, and as Hitesh said, always get like good people on board. Don't try to go for the highest valuation. You should also always think like if this guy is giving you the highest valuation, why is he giving the highest valuation? And there's also a bit of things on the other side. Like sometimes some guys are trying to get promoted, they want to become a partner, they want to have a deal, they want to get on the board. So always double click on why this is happening. Yeah.
Good, Mario.
So I think it's the same trap, right? So when you have a tremendous valuation, it's going to be very hard to get any exit as well. So your valuation will be a burden. The venture capitalist will be looking for a high multiple. It's going to be almost impossible to produce that high multiple, and essentially you're going to be stuck with that. And I agree with Hitesh. You have to take the right amount of capital. Your valuation also has to be in line with your business model. So a lot of people forget about that. In reality, they're just trying to sell expectations and vaporware, essentially, right? So you have to see, hey, if this company were going to go public at some point in time, will that valuation be sustainable based on revenue, based on profitability? So I think you have to be very rational about that and try to go to the true value of the company, that is going to benefit you in the long run, rather than try to get as much money as you can.
Yeah, and look, all I'd say is, whatever valuation you end up getting, if you are 0 to $10 million of ARR, right, you can kind of do magical math on that and try and explain to somebody that are going to acquire you, like, I've got this infinite potential, but early revenue, so therefore ignore my revenue numbers. You can do that. Once you cross that a certain mark, 20, 30, $40 million of ARR, forget it. Any investor or any acquirer is going to look at your revenue metrics, your go-to-market metrics. It will start applying street math on what you're going to worth. And ultimately, if you are lucky enough to actually have the opportunity to go public, then you're going to be facing the street, and you're going to be looking at street marks on where your valuation is going to be. And that's going to bring a dose of reality that you are far better off managing yourself early on and not getting out of hand.
I'll just make one last comment is, when someone is like giving you like $1 billion valuation, I think you should reverse interview them. You should ask that, okay, if you're giving me $1 billion valuation, you're looking for an exit to $3 to $5 billion. You tell me why my company will exit at $3 to $5 billion, and I can tell you 90% of VCs can't answer that question.
That's really true.
Okay, our time is up, so.
Oh.
One last question.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shreya. I'm a recent grad, just finished business analytics, but hearing you guys talk about like leadership, AI, and data was really inspiring, and I think I learned a lot also coming from a new grad perspective. And I know that this is a leadership conference, so I kind of wanted to know what your guys' like leadership philosophy is and how you guys have enacted that in your companies.
Can you repeat the question?
Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to know what your guys' leadership philosophies are, because I know you guys have been in this space for quite a while, and yeah.
Good, Mario.
I still didn't get it.
Leadership values. What are your leadership values?
Leadership values.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that number one is to empower people. So I think that everything that is worth doing has to be done by a team, a very large team. Nobody can build interesting things on their own. So I think that the role of a leader is to inspire other people and give them tools to operate on their own. So you become like a servant to them in the sense that, hey, I will give you tools, I will empower, I will remove obstacles. I think that this is my number one, if I have to have just one value, will be that. Empowering others and making sure that they can develop to their maximum potential.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think I was mentioning the values we have at Vectra, the 3 things I said early on. When I'm hiring folks in the company, whether doesn't matter if I'm hiring an executive or I'm interviewing a rep for the field or an engineer, the teamwork aspect is one of the most important things that you focus on. Because if you get that right, you can kind of deal with most problems. Customer centricity is the other one that I really care very, very deeply about. And if you've got most of the company who cares deeply about customer success, then I think you've got the right focus for the company. And I would say, as I look at this crowd here, there's a lot of most of you are engineers, and I would say if there's the one thing you should really kind of do to break away from your peers is the customer side of things, right? Take the opportunity to get to know customers, build relationships when you don't need anything, right? Everybody kind of gets transactional. I want to talk to you because I want something from you, but the best time to do it is when you don't want anything. So if you've got those aspects, then I think, and if you hire with that in mind, you're going to start instilling the right cultural values in the company.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I think we're
Hitesh.
good. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pramod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.